Okay. Okay, well, everybody, welcome. Hello, how are you? It seems you're all mute, so I won't be able to hear you, but I'm guessing you're having a good time at the moment, seeing us confused about the starting time. But yeah, okay, the reason of this webinar is related with the new update that we recently put on the website. Basically what it is let's say we put all the betas into a single version, and we released a new version for the new year. So obviously we have new functions, some functionalities. We have some new devices, some cables we put into our database. And the reason we have this webinar here is just to showcase these changes and then give you some idea how to use them, how you can use them. So the first bit, I think, if you don't mind, I'll start with the ElectricalOM core software, and then we may switch to the UK forms. And then I don't know if you're going to do the Revit, but if you're going to do the Revit, then for the last one, we can show the Revit updates.
Yeah, we'll do the Revit last, yeah.
Yeah, so this one. Right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as I said, the first one is related with the motor. So let me get a source first and then put a switchboard to that. Right. When you right click on a board, obviously you're all aware of this, that you can actually connect a motor starter to a circuit. Previously, when you insert this, there were no option to increase the number of motors. When you insert a circuit into a motor circuit into a switchboard or anywhere, you will have a motor starter and then you have a motor. But now what you can do is you can install or fit another motor starter into the starter. I am getting these errors. Okay, let me show you this. I guess when you right click on this starter, you can still insert a load into this starter. So when you insert a final circuit, so you need to refresh that, I guess. It will install another motor, so you can carry on installing new motors onto a starter. So you'll have multiple, obviously they're like on top of each other. But as you see on the tree network on the left-hand side, you can carry on adding multiple motors to a single starter. The settings are actually the same. It depends on the load on the motor starter, but that's a new ability. It also, you can remove them, obviously. Let's delete. You just hit delete, then you remove them. The next one is you can insert a junction box after the motor starter connection. So after the motor starter, let's remove this as well.
So this one was added because we had lots of people asking about connections, didn't they? About having isolators closer to the motors and possibly changing conductor sizes at the rotators and these sorts of things. So
yeah, maybe that's useful in that case. So you can insert a junction box into a starter now, and then from there you can carry on inserting your circuits, and you can define them as motors from the circuit edit. Industrial motor, for example. And you will have a motor starter and then a junction box. Previously, you couldn't really do anything with the motor starter. It used to be a starter and a motor, and that was it. You couldn't really remove the motor. You couldn't insert a junction box in between. You couldn't really manipulate the number of motors. And also in this now, you can actually remove these, leave the starter only, and then start reconstructing your circuit. Now I think this summarized the first bit of the new functionalities. The next functionality is related with the relays, which is a bit more. This was pretty straightforward, but let's go for the relays. For the relays, I'm going to use the supply. What's this? I think there is a question. Is there a way to have the motor starter at the switchboard? Yeah, what you can do is, the answer is yes. And let me show you this very, very quickly. When we insert a motor starter into the circuit, like everything else, it comes with a cable and a protective device. But if you want to model it as this is inside your SP1, in my case, you can click on the motor starter and use the circuit edit and remove the conductor in between. When you apply the changes, the cable will be removed. So it will look like there is a board, and then you have a protective device and the motor starter, and that actually models it like it is in the panel. If that's
it's also the same process if you just go to the switch panel, right click and insert a motor. Now, when you go there, your motor settings will be in the circuit edit menu. So if you could just drop in a motor circuit there. So go in, we can change that to some form of motor. And then when we go to the motor settings tab on the circuit edit, at the bottom there, you can specify at what point that actual motor starter is being set. So in the first instance, it's at the distribution board. So we're talking about it's either fitted within or just to the side of that distribution board. And then obviously the other option being at the motor at the other end of the conductor that's put into place. So that's if you're only using one size of conductor, or you only want to specify one type of conductor going from your panel to the motor. Obviously, using the starter, you can change that around and move that around. You can have different conductors, you can add different junction boxes. So it is a bit more versatile, but it depends on the simplicity of what you're trying to achieve in your design. You would pick the particular aspect which is easier for your particular application.
Yeah, if you're willing to show the motor starter on the schematic, then you go with this. If you're not really interested in the motor starter to be on the schematic, you can go with the second option. Sorry. Okay, let's carry on with the relay functionality, and I'm going to use the relay option from the supply window. It works for all sorts of relays, but I'm just going to use this one. If I select this transformer option, this creates this new tab. But well, okay, and I will use this one, high voltage protection, just to be something different. Okay, and change. When I do HV breaker relays, is that it? An electronic protection relay, this option. Now you see the right hand side is the new interface, let's say, for the protection relay. I don't have the picture of the old version of that, but I think the curves are mostly the same, except a few values here that you can actually modify now. But the first bit is there are a few differences. Mainly the IN rating. When you put the IN, you can define an IN rating, because on the left hand side you see that it says user defined. So in order to give a rating for this electric protection relay, you have to define a relay, a rating here. And then we have the current transformer rate turns values, let's say. So using these, you will actually define the pickup current of your transformer, but the current transformer, I mean. And these two values will be used for the curves, for the trip, and then the pickup currents. So it's at the moment it's 100 to 1. Oops. Let's get her in. Okay, so it's defined as 100 to 1, and the curve 1 is a standard inverse curve. Here we have a few values. The first one, the parameter, is the times IN value. This will define the peak of the standard inverse curve. And as you type in numbers here, you will see these will change, and these two values will be using these turns numbers to decide the value. And TMS is actually the time that you want this to be picked up. Using this drop-down list, you can define different curves. You can add multiple curves. You can use the first one as, I don't know, let's say a very inverse one, and the second one could be a standard inverse, and the third can be a definite time, if I can find it, yeah. And these will all be, I will select this and click on OK. I'll go to the selectivity study, and these will all be reflected to the curve that you use. And when you go to the selectivity study tab, when you click on the appropriate location, you will still have the same details on the right hand side where you can define. And as you define, I don't know, you will see the differences on the, oops, that's too much, but yeah, it will change the curve, and you will be visualizing the curve as you change the values. This will give you a lot of function, a lot of flexibility, I would say, if you're using electronic relay protection on your system. Previously, it was quite, let's say, rigid, and you couldn't really change many things. Also, I forgot about this. We have the circuit breaker opening time value here, and when you click on this eye icon, as anywhere else, ElectricalOM will show you a little bit of information. Where does this come from? And you know, the values are actually here. You can define the one that is suitable for your case. By the way, if you have any questions, either unmute yourself or just type it in on the chat.
I don't believe they can unmute themselves. Let me just remedy that. Just a second. So yeah, I've allowed microphones for all attendees now. So anybody who,
you can raise hands as well.
Oh yeah, there's raise hands.
Right.
Obviously, throw up in the chat. I think the Q&A is active. If you want to try and put something in the Q&A, I've never put that on before, so it'd be interesting to see if what that does.
It works.
Yeah, it's been a day of interesting things. We have just had a hand raise though.
Yeah, but it's gone.
Yeah, I can't see it. But anyways, oh yeah, there's another one.
There's
problem with the hand.
They're disappearing.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Here, I'm here from the Philippines. Yeah, you have shown the different types of settings for the relay, which is
yes.
Yeah, as presented earlier. Normally we have this for low voltage system.
Yes.
We don't normally use that relays.
Okay.
We just simply use it on the
HV side.
The protection for the circuit breaker. The what you call this one? The trip units.
Okay.
And in practice, we use the inverse on the medium voltage or high voltage system.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be honest, I couldn't really get the question, but you can select anything from these if that helps. You know, you can disable them and use only one of them. If you're using standard inverse, you can select anything you want from these curves, and then this will be reflected back to the curve. If the question is, can I use this with the LV side?
No.
This is also possible, yes. You can, if you let me click on SP, which is our LV panel. Maybe it's better to use the circuit edit here. And you will have the same option, if I can find it, here, electrical protection relay. And you will have the same settings, so you can set this here and then still use the same functionality. Let's go back to selectivity study. You will have the same values here for that. And if you change these terms values, then everything will be reflected to the curve again here. You see, this curve is now, this is the blue one, and it is for the LV calculations, let's say. But if your question was none of these, just ask it again, please.
Yeah, it's normally yes, we can use that protective relay curves, and while in terms of commercial on the commercial side of thing, that will be expensive using it, because you need to provide a protection CT and you need to provide the relay, the digital relay.
Yes. Yeah.
While for the low voltage, we have already the protection within the circuit breaker.
Within the break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your attendance, let's say. Thank you. The LV system over 2008. Okay, thanks, Chris. So I will switch to the next one, which is the way numbering. This is going to be quite expected change, but yeah. So we change. Well, now there is an option to change the switchboard. Actually, numbers the circuits.
This is something we get asked about a lot. So this is a good one. You need a few more circuits. throw on a few more circuits first.
I would. No, I changed my.
So traditionally with switchboards, whenever you add a new circuit, it would always add an entirely new way. So I think someone's not muted. It wouldn't always add, or it would always add a whole new way. So if you added a new single phase circuit, it would be from way, now it's going to go for way 4, and then another one would be way 5, and then you'd be able to select L1, L2, L3 only for that particular circuit, because the others were always reserved. So I think what Mert's going to show you now is how we can make switchboards behave in the same manner as a distribution board when it comes to numbering.
Yes, this is what I show you. What you're seeing is actually used to be the way that switchboard reacts, let's say, and there were no control on this. And as you add new circuits, it will create a new way. Now we have a new option. The way to access to this is from the famous, let's say, project info and options menu. From design defaults tab, now you will see this option here, which says switchboard way numbering like dBs. This tick box will set this as default. So if you leave this off, then your numbering will be exactly as it was before. But if you tick that, this will change the way ElectricalOM numbers the ways with switchboards. You just need to realize that you need to click on this button once you tick that if you want to update what you already have on the drawing. So if you, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but let's see if we can catch the way that ElectricalOM will change the numbering. Now I'm going to click on this refresh button and click OK. Now you'll see that it's 1L1, 1L2, and then it goes to 2, and then 3, and then 4. Interesting. So if I, let's say,
so now if you put in, if you leave that, put in another further 3 single phase ways off that now, and you'll see how the numbering will just keep adding as you go along. So
okay, I'll try to move this to here between these single phase, the FC1, and this 3-phase circuit, which is FC4, and see how it will be numbered if I manage to move that up there. Okay. About. Now you see that it is 1L1. Because it used to be on L1. Now it's on way 1 because we still have a 3-phase space that is reserved for way 1. And then I'll go and change this to L3, and this will be 1L3. And now this is, as you see, if previously that was supposed to jump to the other way number. That was supposed to be 1L1, then it was going to be 2L2, 3L3. But now it just reserves, if it's a 3-phase SP, by the way, it will reserve these numbering, and it will be numbered as, exactly as a DB distribution board. If you, for some reason, you just want to take it back, you can do this, and it will be back to the original, like 1L1, 2L2, 3L3, 4, 5, and then 6.
So you've still got the customization if you've only got 2 phases coming out of a particular way on a switch panel or something like that. So maybe L2 and L3. You've still got the customization to actually have one of those as L1 and one of those as L3, or one of them as L2 and the other one as L3. But the functionality now is there for it to do that. So
okay, I'll jump to the next one, which is the ability to edit the power directly from the modified load settings, which is actually this. You could before, let's pick a 3-phase. I love 3-phase. Okay, previously you could define the current, well, for SPs, let's say, you could define a current value here for each phase, but you couldn't really touch to the power section. Now you can type in any number you like into these boxes as well, like the current, and this will be recalculated depending on the power that you type in. You can define, I guess, an unbalanced load as well. It's not supposed to be balanced. It's just when you already know, but if you define something for the first phase, then it will override the rest, and then you can carry on defining other values for other phases. So
initially it will. Initially, the value will give you a polyphase uniformity, but then they can be further adjusted to be imbalanced after that, if necessary.
And the next one is related with the volt drop. I'll go back to supply, double click on it, and I'm talking about this little area where you select a volt drop setting. The third one has the change. Previously, the previous version had just one value for all sorts of circuits, but now you're allowed to define a volt drop for lighting and other circuits separately. You can define, I don't know, like 4 here and 6 for power circuits or any other circuit, and it will be calculated accordingly by ElectricalOM. So that's one of the changes. The next one is, let me see, any questions? No questions. Okay. The next one is related with the load density settings. If you're using the low density option here for a board, you already know, I guess, that you have this tab here, and you can change the let's say there are some built-in values for load densities. The change is actually, it's not a change, it's an addition. You know, we have this BCO key criteria 1222, so that's an addition to the database on top of 19. Now we have 22. Okay, so I'll show that. Nothing yet. Okay, I'll jump to the next one. Next one is related with the RCD, that you can actually change the position of the RCD, but that's only for the final circuits. So let's pick a final circuit here. Let's define an RCD. Now you see this little tick box which appeared recently. Let's apply this and visualize how it looks on schematic. This is our RCD right after the MCB, and basically it represents the location inside the SP1. But now if you tick this RCD at load end box and apply the changes, let's see what happens. The RCD moves close to the final circuit. It's just after the cable. So it models a situation where you have the let's say overcurrent protection inside the board, and then you have the cable all the way to the final circuit, the load end, and then you have the RCD at this position. So that's a new functionality.
Yeah, there were lots of people asking about these sorts of things. We had people from doing caravan park installations where they needed to have separate RCDs downstream of the location for where the plug points are. We have people in industrial locations using RCD socket outlets with, you know, built-in RCD devices. So we had those sorts of values and things in there. So there's lots of queries about being able to move those around. So hopefully they'll be of use. Yeah, I think Ian's just also put up there, yeah, Commando with RCD in the enclosure, exactly those sorts of things.
Well,
that
yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Just you mentioned, and I'm going to show this, although I'm not a big fan. Let's try to get a socket outlet circuit. Now I don't know if that was on the. Now we have these two options.
Yeah, so these are the BS 7288 outlets, RCD outlets, because yeah, you do have socket outlets where there are RCDs that are built into them.
When you just select this one,
yeah,
you see that this is grayed out, but it's ticked. So if you select a socket outlet circuit, and if you set this as inside the RCD selection, let's say if you select this built-in RCD for
it'll always be at the load end.
This will be here, so it will be done automatically if you're looking for a socket outlet for BS7288, then you can use this option too. I just said it's not on the list, but I just threw that in.
There's lots of little things that we won't be going through today. There's lots of little things that have been added in, new protected devices and all these sorts of things. So we won't be breaking down into each individual one. But yeah, there's if you have a look through, we're always adding new cables and protected devices and these sorts of things there. And yeah, that's just one of those examples there.
Yeah, okay. The next one is the ability to extract the warnings area. Okay. For the ones that are using this option to, let's say, separate any of the tabs, you know, when you double click, it just becomes a new window for the ones that didn't know before. So you can move it around, and when you close, it goes back to where it is. Just like that, we have this little it's not a button, but it's like an area where you can click, and this will extract the warnings area and make it a separate window, so you can move it to another screen. And you know, as you are changing things on your network or your system, you will also be visualizing the warnings on a separate screen if you have that many warnings. That is, and when you click on X, it goes back to where it's supposed to be. Is it possible to add a load after the commando socket?
I was actually writing a response to that in the chat, so it's
Yeah.
Carry on.
Okay, well, we don't have such. Can you show the extraction? Okay, let's do this extraction first, and I'll come back to you, Mark. This little, we need to talk about the meters. I don't know what that looks like, but it's an area where when you come onto it, when you hover on, it says extract window.
Looks like a box with an arrow on it.
Yeah, it's something like this.
Arrow.
That's what it is. When you click on it, it will get it will pop the warnings area out, and it will leave this area empty. You can move it to anywhere you like using your mouse. When you don't want to, when you want it to go back, you just click here, the X button, and then it goes back to bottom of the screen.
Well, it's only been 2 weeks, but yeah, nice. Yeah, I started early.
Okay,
Hang on, I'll see if I can find that mic and kill it.
Okay, thanks, Ellen. Now let's go back to the commando socket. So we don't have such arrangement, to be honest, within the ElectricalOM that you will have a socket and then another connection. But what you can do is, my suggestion would be, you can put a junction box, change the symbol for it. You can do something like a socket and then another connection to it. You can change the symbol.
He didn't ask for anything.
Or that
Nor should he be asking. He's already good enough.
Then
Like I
Just
said,
shout,
yeah, no
Jen,
business being
quieting
that
him
good.
down.
Sorry, I can't really
Oh,
hear.
I think I've
don't hear
killed that
myself.
now. There we go.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my suggestion would be to use a junction box and change the symbol, and then to the junction box you can add your load. So when you look, when you visualize the schematic, you will see like a socket and then have another symbol going out, and you have your load. And if you have any protection devices inside the JB, like, let me get a JB here. It's on the other screen, but yeah, it will come up. Okay, and then insert a final circuit, let's say 3-phase again. If you change this symbol to something similar to a socket plug arrangement, you can right click on this, if I can find it now, and use this change symbol option. You can click on this, and if you have created a symbol, then it will appear here, and you can pick one of them. Okay, let's use one of these just to show you how you can do this. So it's changed now. So you can put something else there just to make it look like a socket plug arrangement, and then you carry on with your circuit. And you can define any kind of protective device using circuit edit. You can put an RCD, you can put an MCB, anything. Let's get this guy in. And another thing is, you can right click if you don't like this long line. You can force the extension layout. So when you click on this, it will put ElectricalOM will put that back close to the SP, and you won't be able to move it around though, but it will look like a final circuit. I guess I would do this, but at the moment we don't have a specific symbol for plug socket arrangement.
One
Okay,
doesn't
no
really
problem.
exist in the IEC standard apart from the outlet ways. But yeah.
Okay.
Can you add a commando socket symbol as standard? If you have one or know where there is one,
not?
then yeah, I mean, generally it's just a standard socket outlet symbol. There in the IEC standards, there's no specific symbol just for a commando outlet different to that of a socket outlet, for instance. At the end of the day, they are just they're both a form socket outlet.
But yeah, why not? If you just send us your, let's say, thoughts about the symbol, and we may put that. I cannot say we will, because we need to talk with Dimitri as well. But most probably, yeah, it will be on next or the other beta we release it when we release it. Okay. Okay. The next one is related with extra lighting inrush current settings. Okay, that's new. I'll pick one of these final circuits, and I will define this as a lighting circuit. Lighting. Okay, when you define a circuit as lighting, now we have a new tab here. It appears after you select this as a lighting symbol. It's what's that? Yes, please imagine. Okay. It's inrush current tab. When you click, it will give you a few options, so you can define an inrush current. But in order to define anything, because they are grayed out by default, you need to tick to that button, obviously, to enable the inrush current settings, and it will give you two fields that you can type in or use this arrow to change the value. You can define the maximum inrush current and then the duration of that inrush current. Now, we had a call today to define something smaller than this value. We are going to, let's say we are going to look into this, but if you think about the protective devices, really, it's 0.1 second, 0.01 second that we are actually looking for. If there is something smaller than this, it's not going to be detected by at least these devices. I don't know if there is a specific device that can detect something in microseconds or something, but for the purpose of what we have in the database, this will be the maximum, well, minimum duration, I would say. But this will give you this option for short, and you can define an inrush current for a lighting circuit. And it will give you the warnings as well. If there is something wrong, if your duration is too long and it will cause the MCB to trip or anything like that, you will see a warning about this and you can carry on and try to find a solution for that. You can change the device that you have, you can change your protective device, and this sort of things. If you untick this, then this will be completely disregarded by ElectricalOM.
If you want to pop that back on, and also show how we actually put that onto the selectivity study as well. So very similar to how you would see motor inrush and startup there, you can plot it against your devices. So you can see there where the intersecting line is. You can see at the 1 second, which it was where the line comes across there, which is what we set the time for. But we can see it intersects with the protected device, so that's why we've got the warning that pops up. If you drop the current a bit, so let's say change it to like 5 watts a lamp. That's something like normal for like an LED or something along those lines. So yeah, now we can go back to our selectivity study. So we've got one LED lamp, 5 watts with a 100%, and as you can see, so it went back now. Yeah, so it's not getting anywhere near there. So one of the big things with the inrush was lots of people asking about LEDs, looking at inrush for LEDs and these sorts of things. So that's what we've put in there. Although I was looking through quite a bit of data online earlier, the last few days, and I was talking to someone else about this, and I couldn't find many manufacturers providing the data on the inrush of their lamps and the like for installations, but it mostly comes from drivers in relation to those LED systems.
We also, well, I'm checking the chat, and there is one thing.
Yeah, there's a question about isolating transformers. Yeah, we'll park that for now and see. Let's get through the rest of the features, because the isolating transformers, they've been in there for a long time, so we can quickly look at that later on. Is that can the chip curve graph show actual time and current rather than
no.
the
At the
log
moment, it's
items?
logarithmic. It's all logarithmic. So
Yeah.
but it is actually the same values. It's just shrinked a bit for to visualize it better. But at the moment, we don't have the functionality to extend it to let's say equal increments. So okay, for that's the answer. Let me see what's the next one. Is the multi-selecting on the tree network view? Okay, now we have the ability to be able to select more than one circuit within this area. Or it will not really work unless you tick this. Even I was confused yesterday. I have to admit that I couldn't really select more than one circuits. Then I realized
I did exactly the same thing.
So yeah, when you tick this, you won't be seeing that, but it will put a tick next to it. This means that this is enabled. So once this is enabled, you can use Control key from your keyboard, obviously, and then you can pick the circuits, or you can use a Shift key and click, let's say, the last object or item that you want to select. And this, if you use the Shift key, it will select everything in between. And on the schematic, yeah, they're not highlighted, but yeah, these are selected on the left-hand side and they're highlighted on the left-hand side. So you can do any kind of manipulation. You can delete, you can move, you can cut, you can copy directly from the tree network area. Who is this? Brian.
Yeah, Brian seems to be shouting at us very loudly. What about your ring main circuit? I'm not entirely sure. So I mean, switching on and off circuits is something we already do. It's always been a feature within the software to make things active and non-active. Load flows, you can select any part of the network and see what the load is at a particular point. You've got the tabs on the right hand side of the screen which do that. Again, that's already pre-existing functionality within the software. I'm not sure what your question is about the ring main circuits. We do have ring main circuits and the ability to do ring mains within.
He's not talking about this. He's talking about the supply, the main.
Oh, distribution ring mains. Okay,
yes,
yeah, that's
so that everything what he's asking at the moment is not related with what you just said.
Yeah.
He's talking about the load flow for multiple, let's say, ring mains, for example, the supply side and the switching circuits on and off. That I'm not sure what that means because you can use switches and turn off and on the circuits, or you can activate or reactivate the circuits using this tick box. But yeah, the others are related with the, let's say, MV or HV side. And at the moment, we don't have this functionality, I have to tell. Although we get questions about this and we are working on it, but I'm not going to reveal anything else at the moment. So yeah, not at the moment, let's say, and carry on. Okay, there is a new option where you can calculate the let's say the consumption of a circuit, and this is somewhere other details tab. So for a final circuit, I'm not sure if you have this for the for the final circuits, you can click on the other details tab. I'll come back to this. Let me carry on with this. Okay. At the last section, last area, we have the consumption area, and here you can use that field to type in the usage of that final circuit. It says hours of use per day, so this is daily basis. Utilization profile, you can click on these 3 dots. And then you can add new categories, new profiles. When you do this, you can type a name for these. And then you can use these for, let's say, for this device or final circuits, let's say.
Yeah, add a profile, because the profiles show obviously different days
These are
and months, so you can define how much time that's actually going to be spending on during those periods.
Yeah. I will say Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Let's say I'm washing my clothes. So that creates a profile, and you can update. When you create a profile, it will update, and you can assign this for that. So this will, at the bottom, it will recalculate. It will calculate you will see the watts of the circuit, and then it will see the time that you actually typed in, or depending on the profile, and then it will give you a number for yearly consumption in kilowatt hours, I would say. So, and you by click, you can define a number, you can assign a profile, or if you don't want to assign a profile, you can clean it using this, and this will calculate this as if it is going to be used every single day. So if I put 3, this will be 3 hours every day, 3 hours, 365 days, if I don't assign any profile. Or it also depends if you set the profile for every day. You can set monthly basis as well, the weeks, things like that, and you can get a consumption. And I am guessing.
Is there a default duty in ElectricalOM? Default duty in regards to the profiles we were looking at there, or another type of duty?
And okay, I'll just give that. We have also a report related with this, and if you tick, well, obviously I don't have much thing there, but let's see what it comes up with. Yeah, and then on this report you will see your final circuits. Well, obviously if we had more boards, there will be more sheets for that list, but it will show the final circuit, it will show the power of that circuit and the data that you selected for that specific circuit, and then obviously the yearly consumption for that. So you can get a list at the end for a yearly consumption of the whole system if you put everything into ElectricalOM. And okay, I guess these are all the changes or additions to the core software. What's this? There is somebody. Okay.
There are a couple of questions left there. So I haven't heard back from Ericsson. Why is there a default duty in the ElectricalOM that we can use, or is it a manual input? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what you mean by the duty. You're talking about in terms of the consumption or usage, or the consumption calculations?
I think
you can unmute if you want to.
Chat here. Is
but in terms of the consumption ones, no, it's all manual at the moment. You would create your own consumptions, use it for the analysis kilowatts hour per year.
Possibly diversity that was being asked, which you can put in manually in your system. Agreed.
Right, if it's diversity, then we do have the standardized tables from likes of the IT Guidance Note 1 already pre-built into there for diversity factors and those sorts of things. And then, does the software produce load lists and cable schedules? Yes. Yes, those are already features, and there's reports for those, as well as the ability to put them on your CAD drawings, produce CAD layouts of customized cable schedules with customized data, protected devices, load information. There's a lot. And we've got lots of different types of reports as well. And generally when people ask for a specific type of report, if it's something that that a lot of people find useful, then we tend to add them in. You can see there we've got quite a long list of reports already as the screen goes, and you know, they produce really anything from the software that we need to, as well as the ability to actually create your own custom templates for some types of forms as well. Yeah.
Right, so I'll try to show the cable schedule that is created by the reports. And what was the other one? Load lists?
Yeah.
Well, load list. We have the circuit schedule, but I know that there is a.
There's also another question. I guess someone raised a hand.
Yeah, someone's got their hand up. We'll get to them shortly.
Okay.
So, Greg has got his hand up.
Connected load analysis also will give you the numbers. If you have, let's say you have 10 socket outlet circuits, that would be 10, and it will give you a short, let's say, overview of the type of circuits, final circuits that you have on the system, if that's what you're looking. But if you're looking for individual loads, then you can carry on with the cable schedule, which will.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that are already pre-existing with the software that we can do that. We're not really going to go too much into them today because we're looking at a lot of the new features that have just come out in the latest update. But if you do have particular queries about that, by all means, email us and we'll get in contact with you and go through any queries and set up a demo and show you some of these separately as well. Greg, your hand's been up quite a while. Do you want to?
Yeah, hi there. In terms of the consumption report, a lot of the time I'm getting asked by clients in terms of to go to an existing building, look what circuits they've got on lighting, and then come up with a plan for a new proposed LED install, for example. Is there any way that we could add a kilowatt hour cost into the software to basically represent from the information we put in that would give an overall cost per year, for example, if they were to use that?
At the moment,
it's not in there at the moment, but it's entirely possible. Couldn't promise that it will be any time soon. That
it is possible,
because as long as you've got, it's different for everybody.
Cost.
The unit,
what
the
I
cost
would
per
suggest,
unit, and
that's what I mean. Sorry.
What I suggest is, I'm not sure, but you can export this to an Excel and then put a, it depends the cost of the electricity. So we don't have this facility at the moment to type in a unit electricity costs. And I don't know if you come in with the, these different tariffs and all that, it get very complicated. So it's better, I would say, you can use this, you can export it to Excel and then put in your data for, maybe times and the consumption during these times and etc. And then multiply it with this kilowatt per hour value and you get the cost. That would be my suggestion. In this.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Like I say, it's just a manual entry. It's quite a basic level of maths, obviously. So it's just to see if it could be included within the report function. But it's good that you've already thought about it.
Yeah, well, we may be able to incorporate this, but it will not going to be a very, very complicated one like you can create tariffs. So I don't know, it may not serve for the purpose. And I think it's better to get this already populated list to Excel and then multiply it with your cost, unit cost, and get the total cost.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, I will also take a note for that, and we may incorporate this into ElectricalOM in the future. Good idea, anyways. Right. Can the schedules be time stamped? I would say no, unless you do it yourself when you take a printout or export to PDF or any other place. Could a calculation running cost be added to that sheet? might be useful for EV chargers in the future. Running costs. Oh,
Same
similar
question
to,
as what we just had, I think.
yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah. You enter the date in the revisions column. Yeah.
You enter the date in the revisions column. Yes.
I think it's an answer to the question of it. Yeah. You can date. You can put the dates. It's really the.
Yeah, look, the revisions, you can put revision information in, you can put a date, name, comments against
if you
it.
put a
and
time
that
there, it will
information,
show up.
yeah.
But it's not going to be time stamped by itself. Okay, this is all for the core software, as I said earlier. So we may like to switch to UK forms because we already have 10 minutes only. Okay, so I'll pass this to you, Spencer, and you carry on with the UK forms.
Sure.
If
Share
there's
my-
nothing else, let me stop sharing. Oh, there is somebody. Oh, gone. Okay.
So we have the UK forms. There's been quite a few changes, obviously, over the last year. The UK forms, you had new forms that have come in. So we have the new British Standard forms that are available. And there's a lot of little features and things that happened with things like the inspection schedules and updates in that information as well. One of the big differences or the big changes that has been made is we were having people asking about being able to split down 3-phase circuits and the alike, so they could have individual lines to test things like per phase and those sorts of things. And a lot of the questions were quite heavily geared around things like having transformers. So if you've got a 110 volt system and you've got 2 phases, so here on I've just sort of quickly modeled up a single phase center trapped earth transformer, which is down to 110 volts. So we've got 55 volts from each line to earth. And when the testing on these sorts of cables or these types of cables, they wanted to be able to record 2 sets of results. So from each 55 volt line back to our reference earth point. So what we've done is any circuit which is a 3-phase circuit or a 2-phase circuit or even a split phase 110 volt system, you can select the circuit on a particular board or in a particular location. You can right click and I can either split the phases on the particular row or I can split the phases for all of the board here. So for instance here, if this is my 110 volt transformer with my 2 conductors here, so I can split this now into 2 lines. So now I've got 1.1L1 and 1L1.2. So you can record 2 sets of information for the 2 different lines there and record that data where necessary. And I could have done that for the whole board. So the option here is to split phases for the whole board. So all of these circuits now, which are 2 phases, now give me the 2 options for the 2 lines for me to be doing the tests on. If I go to another panel or something else, which has maybe a 3-phase circuits, it's not this board. Let's try B1 here. So I've got a number of circuits here, which are L1, L2, L3. For instance, I can take 801 here and I can split this into separate rows as well. So I can see, even though it's still the same circuit, feeding the same board, I can give individual lines and we can fill out test data for each line. So how you would go around that may be useful for things like your insulation resistance testing and those sorts of things, breaking it down per phase there. Has anyone got any questions about that or any particular questions about the UK forms?
I guess there is a question for solar panel.
Is there an option that we can put solar panels in ElectricalOM?
Yes, is the question. Or the answer, in a way.
Yeah, so we can model things like putting in place AC to DC inverters and those sorts of things on the system. In terms of the prosuming, there are a few nuances around that. So there are various things that we're doing in there. I think there are some videos though on YouTube already, or some videos on. Was there videos or some explanation on the knowledge base somewhere already? So we can get that sent out to you rather than try and explain through it right now.
There is a video on YouTube channel
a lot there
for PV systems.
And the other thing as well, which we have here within the UK forms, is DB images now. So if you're out on site and you've taken a photo and you want to take a photo via the mobile app and these sorts of things, you can just take a photo of a general board or something that the asset that is you're testing there. So here you can see up here we've got DB images, and I can add 2 images per board to show. Because one of the things that we were being asked is they wanted a standard image of the board just in place, what they've been tested when they've been to the location, and then a second location where they could also take maybe a thermal image or something like that of the board, and then place that image within the report as well. So that will then show up within the reports when we do the print off. So if I just select, see what we got. I don't think I've got any photos on here because they usually do this from the mobile app, but definitely not. Let's go for okay. I'll just stick a couple of logos in here instead. So if I just do one here, select this one. Yeah. So, okay, so if I now generate a print off of this, this is going to go down to our particular panel. We're not selected to have that. Yes, I've missed a checkbox. I just need to. Here we go, show board images. It's always the simple things. Here we go. So, go down now. As you can see, the two images there are now on the print off sheet showing. So if you've got an image of the board and a thermal image, then obviously that will appear in that location. Any questions from anyone?
It would be better if you show this tick box again.
Yeah,
because you went very fast. And yes,
so in the board images down here, you can add the board images, but then you got the tick box here to as whether or not you want it to appear in the print off, or you just want those images to be stored within your data on the software. So you jump between those.
Okay, I think Mick is asking. I think it's a question. Can you record earth leakage current on EICR? I guess
the answer is no. Well, yeah. No and yes. You can record it, but you would have to record it something like in the remarks column here. There's not a specific column for recording earth leakage. There are things that we have been talking about in terms of custom columns and things that we want to see in the future, which would relate to things like in the circuit edit. So where we do have, for instance, on the earthing protected device tab, if we have an RCD in place, calculating earth leakage on the particular circuit, because we have various locations we can put earth leakage information in there. And that would be related to our downstream. So I can put on here a defined amount of earth leakage. But currently there's no column in the forms, there's no column within the mobile app to record that, to bring that in as data later on. But it is something we have already thought about and looking at for future adaptations to things like the mobile app, which that could hopefully be useful for. Any more questions?
Yeah, well, there is. If you check chat, I think Paul is asking, well, this is not really an update related question, but if you split the circuit in the forms, will it be reflected in the core software? That's his question.
So if I've put in two sets of results here, so here I've got my, select that from the schematic. So I've got my 2 lines of data here, and you can record all your various information. 5, for instance, 2.6. I'm just going to save that and apply that as it is. Now it's not going to change the layout in the schematic or anything along those lines, but when we have data and things that we would transfer back, so I'm going to submit those test results back in here. I'm going to go to our UK forms. So here you can see the value that we put in. It's taking the highest value down. But when you bring into a new form, 2 sets of data will still be there. It shows a single line of data currently in the test results section of the circuit edit menu, if that's what you're referring to in terms of that information.
Not sure. Maybe we need some clarification. What do you mean when you say split the circuit?
Yeah, there are, because effectively there are 2 lines of test data there, but at the moment it's only showing 1 in the circuit edit. So we're assuming here we're talking about this split of data from our ways here. Any more questions? Any hands?
Yeah, yeah, we're already finished it time-wise, but we can carry on, I guess, if you like to.
Well, the last thing is to do with Revit. So dealing with Revit families. So I mean, it's really up to the room how many people here are actually using Revit and want to see that. If I get either a show of hands or some people put up, otherwise we can polish off. Otherwise, so we got one from Scott.
Would you like to unmute yourself, Scott? And yeah, let's go with.
Assuming these people, these are just people that want to see the Revit functionality in terms of the what's going on with the Revit families. So I mean, for anyone else, we are literally going to be looking at just things like to do with the Revit now. So for anyone else who wants to stay or go, feel free to do so. I'm going to pull up Revit here on my screen.
There's a question from Ellen.
Ellen.
On the chat, okay. If you he's saying, could you do a feature webinar specifically to do with the BIM add-on module side of the software?
Yeah, we've done one previously for the Revit integration and the Revit add-on that we have in the software. It's all on the YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, we could probably do something newer, a bit more specific and up to date with some of the things that we're doing in the software. Absolutely, we'll take a look at that. But in the meantime, we're going to take a look.
Yeah, I know, but I can see Stefan, let's say, his raised hand, and he's been waiting there for a few minutes now, I guess.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let give him the mic so he can ask his question, and then we carry on with the Revit if he likes to. I don't know. I can't hear anything from him at the moment. Hello, Stefan. I can't read the name.
Trying to continue on with
Foreman.
the Revit. I'm just interested in seeing the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
So-
put the hand up. Sorry, I'll take it down there. Just
So I've kind of pre-worked with this model. So I've already exported it and brought it out to brought it out into ElectricalOM. So I've got various elements here, and I had brought it out into ElectricalOM, and here here is the model that's been brought in. So I've got all the basic model, which I've exported and brought in. So here, if I select any particular, put the get set on for the moment, and do the same here. So if I select any particular circuit here, for instance, this lighting circuit, and I go back onto ElectricalOM here, we'll be able to jump between the various different circuits and their locations between the two. And just here, so for instance, this circuit here should bring me one of these here. I don't have the right floor layer on the drawing here, but it's just going to open that. So yeah, here we go, bringing up to this. Now, various elements within Revit. Originally, when exporting all of our data from Revit, if I wanted to export information, we go to our ElectricalOM. I could either export the entire model as it was directly out to ElectricalOM, but I could also use the export selected. And if I wanted to make changes to a particular panel or a particular board or a particular circuit, I would have to go through this tree network and select the board itself and say, right, this isn't going to be a board, this is going to be a transformer or a junction box, and these sorts of things. So there's a bit of a process that was going on there, and then we could export that out and it would match that information and turn those objects into those particular things within ElectricalOM. Now, one of the things that we have recently done in the software is we've added in an EOM family profiles. So where you've got your own symbols, families of symbols, and these sorts of things going into Revit, we can actually now assign ElectricalOM properties directly to those Revit families. So here I'm going to open up and select up here for my EOM family profiles, which is going to bring up a new screen for us, which you see just here. Now, at the moment, I've only got the basic symbols from Revit. I don't have any custom family symbols or these sorts of things. So I'm using the basic Revit families here. So for distribution boards, if I go to 3 phases here, I can see the different types of distribution board that I have in play here. So for instance, I've got this lighting appliance panel board, which is here. And from here now, on the right hand side, I can assign the properties as we would expect to see them within ElectricalOM. So for instance, from the kind here, I can select if this is going to be a switchboard, distribution board, a junction box, UPS, busbar section, or trunking system. So we can start building up that data as how we want to see it within ElectricalOM. So for instance, here for this lighting panel board, I'm going to say I want it to be actually a distribution board type. I can also apply to it a particular type of protected device. So here, if I select here, you're going to see all the same sort of menus and data that we see in ElectricalOM coming up here, so we can apply those various details here. So for instance, if this is going to be this board, I'm going to supply it with an MCCB of some type. So I'm going to select an MCCB here. I can give it a KA rating or what level I expect. We can always change it later on within ElectricalOM. That's going to be easily done later. So here I'm going to select something a little bit bigger. So let's go for basic KA 160 amp supply for our panel board. I can then select a cable type. So I'm going to go for a BSEN standard cable, multi-core armored. I'm going to say it's going to be on a ladder system, at least a 25mm, and I'm going to use a armor plus a separate conductor, say 16mm. So I can apply all these details to this particular panel. And once I've done that, that is now saved to this particular item within the families. Now I can do this to lots of different types. We've got final circuits here, so I'm looking at things like final circuits in terms of our socket outlets, lighting circuits, motorized circuits, whatever symbols that we're putting into play there. And again, I can predefine all the same sort of data. But when I've done this, it might be that I'm only using this type of data for a particular type of installation. So for this type of installation, maybe just for domestic installation, or something like a hotel or something along those lines, I might also use the same families and details but differently in something like a hospital, for instance. So I've created some pretty basic profiles here. So I've got like a domestic, a commercial, industrial, and I can add as many new profiles as I want to. And with each profile, I can assign different sets of data to those same family sets of symbols. So for instance, on a new project, if I'm doing something in a school, for instance, I can have a completely different standard in relation to that, which might be more specific to that spec. So all cables might be singles in containment trunking, or in trunking systems. 100mm systems might be more ducting going on for certain things like vehicle charging points, whatever it might be in there. You can then apply individual data. And once this information is then applied within here, any data we then export back out to ElectricalOM will then be maintained into our new system. So for instance, here I'd already applied some existing data. So for instance, I have these lighting circuits, and in there I've already said it's for a domestic installation. All this is going to be flat twin and earth, which is run to 70, low smoke and fume, with the size of my conductors. I've already pre-selected my protected devices, and all that data has been done directly within the Revit environment before bringing it into ElectricalOM. So reducing down the amount of time we're going to have to spend making corrections and updating the design. When we bring it into ElectricalOM, we're then just looking at the calculation side in terms of what we've pre-assigned within the Revit model. And then we might need to change some cable sizes. We might need to do some earthing. We might need to adjust our protected devices for our selectivity study. And then once we've done an ElectricalOM, obviously all that data can then be sent straight back into our Revit model and updated into the properties information there for use later on for doing all your schedules and those sorts of things in there as we go. Got a hand up from who we got here? I don't want to say this wrong. Is it Lodi? Lodi?
Yeah, Lodi.
Lodi.
Yeah, I have one question. It's been hanging up there. Let me read that one. For SP1 panel, for switchboard, is there a way I can select the power pack Schneider electric panel in the software?
Right. So as it stands, when you're selecting manufacturer specifics are generally related directly to protected devices and cable types, busbar, track systems, and the like. We're not currently doing anything for assigning a particular board to be a Schneider board, for instance. You can assign information or tell it that you want it to be when you go to the other details. So for instance, if I go to this board here, and I go to the other details, I can add additional information. I can define a particular part, location, classification, part codes, those sorts of things in here manually ourselves. Although it is something that we have talked about before, about being able to assign a board to be, say, a Schneider board. So then when you go to your protected devices, it's only showing Schneider protected devices, or if it's a Hager board, it's only then showing the Hager protected devices that can fit in that board and those sorts of things. But that's just something that we have spoken about. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to go forward with that at the moment. Like I say, the key thing is making sure the devices and things are right for things like the selectivity. So those are manufacturer specific, and those can be applied also to obviously the families that are within the Revit environment there. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I just want to continue that question, because when we're doing the design, sometimes electrical engineers extending too much circuit on that same switchboard. Say if you go to the catalog, wherein we all know that this switchboard are tested based on 6497 standards, and maybe the board will not be allowed to extend to too many circuits.
Yeah, so
And
you're
it
saying
might,
basically if you let's say for instance you have a like a Lucy panel and they only do those in 16 way, 24 way, 36 way,
Yeah.
48 way, that limits it to those sorts of ranges and those sorts of things. Like I say, it's something we've thought about, but there's a lot of additional data then that we need to go through and get for the various different types of panel and those sorts of things. But it's something that we have thought about, and we are looking maybe at sort of things in the future that might be able to help with that, but it's not something that I can say is something on the immediate horizon, which we will be doing. So it will require, like any software, is you have to have good engineering judgment. You have to understand the products that you're installing, what the limitations of those products are, you know, whether or not you can have a 36 way panel of that particular make of brand for the devices that you're going to be put it in there. You would have to obviously make sure that that's being specified correctly outside of the software as it stands.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
I've got one just based on the webinar. Is this going to be uploaded onto the website?
Yeah,
Just in
well,
case
what'll
I
happen
wanna
is this
refer
will
back.
go. Yeah, this will go up onto YouTube, go on the Modix Off YouTube channel in the next couple of days.
Brilliant, cheers.
Excellent stuff. If there's no other questions, then
more.
we're pretty run over. I think things didn't quite go to plan today. We had a bit of a shaky
we started
start,
a bit
but
late.
hopefully we brought it back
late.
from all of that, and hopefully everyone's found something useful in the software. I have noticed a few comments being popped up in the chat. People quite happy with some of the new features and functionality that we've seen there in the latest update. And as always, if you do have queries and there are things that you are looking to have or would like to see in the software in the future, by all means send email, or you know, there's the forums and the chats and these sorts of things, so just let us know. We do keep track of, you know, these things that are coming in. When we're doing everything we can to obviously make sure that these features that people really need and see out there for the modern today's construction and the way that we're all working, that it works for everybody. So yeah. But anyway, that is a thank you from me, and I shall hand back over to Mert to finish off.
To finish it off. Okay. Well, thank you. Nice presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ellen. Well, it's not me. Somebody is trying to get in, but it's late for that.
I let him. So
okay.
he can hear the last bit.
Last bit. Okay. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for everyone who joined us and asked questions, and I think we have a few advices as well for some requests. Thanks for using the chat and the hand option. I think it's better to have this sort of interactive webinars rather than us talking all the time. So thank you for that. And as Spencer said, this will be uploaded to the website. Well, not the website, sorry, but it will be uploaded to the YouTube channel of ours. So you'll be able to go back and watch it again if you liked it. But other than that, I think we answered all the questions or your questions you have, and I think it was nice to show you the new features that we had with the software. So I say thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next webinar or another Q&A session.
That's it.
Right? Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
folks.
Cheers.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.